Adams Archive.
The Libertarian Millet pledges new political era after election win, which for essentially, let's go ahead and read this. This comes from Reuters, and it says, Argentina elected right-wing libertarian Javier Millet as is now president on elected right-wing libertarian Javier Millet as his new president on Sunday, rolling the dice on an outsider with radical views to fix an economy battered by triple-digit inflation. Heard of that before? A looming recession and rising poverty. Millet, now this is really interesting because he's a self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalist. And if you don't know what that means, it means essentially that, you know, you want very, very minimum, like essentially zero government intervention within almost everything. And you allow the market to dictate where money is allocated, right? Like true capitalism, essentially. It's not anarchy in the way that it was framed back when we were growing up with like an A with a slash through it and a circle around it, which meant, you know, you're going to like burn down a building and smoke meth or something. It's like anarcho-capitalism is actually a well-known and I don't know if thought out's the word, but political ideology that a lot of people seem to start to agree with. And it's like when you're libertarian and you're hyper libertarian, like almost want to rid the government completely and then just have capitalism take place and no government assistance programs. You know, there's like a famous video of Javier Millet just sitting in front of a board with like the Department of Agriculture, and he rips it off of it and he goes, gone. Department of Infrastructure, gone. Department of this, gone. And like just running. He's a very eclectic, ostentatious individual. Has some interesting energy about him. And I don't know what's more interesting, his energy or his toupee. He very obviously seems to wear some sort of hairpiece. But it said Millet, who rode a wave of voter anger with the political mainstream, won by a wider than expected margin. And this is probably more aligned with like Trump effect, I would say, right? Like to see the effect that Trump had in the United States and then see it kind of bleed over in that sentiment and that that collective consciousness across the world to see like, oh, maybe if, you know, changing up the system, shaking up the system with an outsider worked for them, maybe it can do so for us. Now, I'm not sure if this guy's background is as prestigious as Donald Trump's, but who knows? He landed some 56% of the vote versus just 44% for his rival. The model of decadence, when it has come to an end, there's no going back, Millet said in a defiant speech after the result, which while also acknowledging the challenges that face him. We have monumental problems ahead: inflation, lack of work, and poverty, he said. The situation is critical and there's no place for tepid half measures. In downtown Buenos Aires, hundreds of Millet supporters honked horns and chanted his popular refrain against the political elite, "Out with them all," as rock music played from speakers. Some people set off fireworks as excitement spread. We came to celebrate this historic triumph, said Efren Viveros, a 21-year-old student from the province of Salta. I'm honestly ecstatic, they said. Honestly ecstatic. All right. It's a good way to put it, right? And just kind of like feel the mass energy of that country. At one time when you go watch these videos of this parades and this man like legitimately running around with a chainsaw saying that he's going to cut off all of the government spending in like this wild show was pretty interesting. And we'll watch that clip in just a second. But here's the rest of this article, which says that Millet is pledging economic shock therapy. He plans to include shutting down the central bank, ditching the peso, and slashing spending, potentially painful reforms that resonated with voters angry at the economic malaise. Millet is the new thing. He's a bit of an unknown, and it's a little scary, but it's time to turn over a new page, said 31-year-old restaurant owner Christian, who voted on Sunday. Millet's challenges are enormous. He will have to deal with the empty coffers of the government and central bank, a creaking $44 billion debt program with the International Monetary Fund, inflation nearing 150%, and dizzying array of capital controls. Some Argentines have characterized the vote as a choice of the lesser evil, fear of Millet's painful economic medicine versus anger of Massa and his Peronist party for an economic crisis that has left Argentina deeply in debt and unable to tap global credit markets. Millet has been particularly popular among the young, who have grown up seeing their country lurch from one crisis to another. Perhaps not everything Millet says I could agree with or identify with, but he is our future. Millet represents a future for young people like me. Massa was everything that is wrong with our country. Millet's win shakes up Argentina's political landscape and economic roadmap and could impact trade in grains, lithium, hydrocarbons. Millet has criticized China and Brazil, saying he won't deal with communists and favors stronger U.S. ties. Interesting. Now, here's the video that we all have been waiting for. At least I have, because I haven't watched the full thing yet.
Javier Millet won a convincing victory in yesterday's presidential election with a promise to sharply cut government spending and tackle the country's worst economic crisis in decades. Says he'll bring a chainsaw to the economy. In fact, he brought a chainsaw to many of his campaign rallies as a prop. Also, he cloned his dog. That's what he's known for. Ed O'Keefe has this very strange story.
He cloned his dog?
A massive political shakeup in Argentina. Javier Millet, a far-right economist and television personality, joined the political fray just 3 years ago. Now he's in charge of the third largest economy in Latin America, as it teeters on the edge of disaster.
Porque hoy comienza la reconstrucción de Argentina.
Millet rode to power on a wave of popular discontent over a stagnating economy with a 40% poverty rate and inflation nearing 150%. This woman says she supports Millet because she's looking for change in Argentina, a country she says has been suffering from years of decadence. He became known for his unorthodox showmanship during the campaign.
That dude's wild.
Wielding a chainsaw to symbolize his war on government spending, threatening vital public services.
¡Afuera!
And printing a picture of a U.S. dollar bill with his face on it, part of a widely criticized campaign to use the U.S. dollar as Argentina's currency. The self-described anarcho-capitalist has also advocated for eliminating the country's central bank. Millet's controversial tirades against the political class have drawn comparisons to neighbor Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro, as well as former President Donald Trump, who sent congratulations to Millet on Truth Social, saying he will make Argentina great again. For CBS Mornings, I'm Ed O'Keefe.
All right. There you have it, guys. So that will be really interesting to play out, to see as somebody who is a self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalist, to see them in a position of power, a libertarian. To me, it's what makes the most sense in politics is less government, right? And maybe not less government to the sense that there should be absolutely no foundational government whatsoever. And maybe there's a balance of that in anarcho-capitalism, but there should be some infrastructure for protecting your borders, protecting your people from themselves, and some other things like that. But essentially, in some social programs, again, not against all social programs, but the government, just like the United States, I'm sure there is just far over bloated. Most of the government is essentially bad at every single thing that it's ever done. Almost ever. Like almost a 0% batting average on doing great things as a overall entity. So it'll be an interesting case study to see how it plays out. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. I love you. I hope you have a great week. Look out for all my content coming out this week. It is at the Austin J. Adams on Instagram. Find me on Twitter, since I'm just starting to use that again. And everywhere the hell else that you can find me. Subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Have a great week. Thank you.
Adams Archive.